Most people think getting rich is about luck, or hard work, or being born into the right family, with the right connections, in the right city, at the right time. But what if it's none of that? What if getting rich is a science, something with structure, laws, and repeatable patterns? What if wealth, real wealth, was less about chance and more about alignment? That's the radical promise of Wallace D. Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich. A short, direct, and almost mystical book that's been quietly transforming lives for more than a century. Not by giving tactical financial advice, but by flipping the script on how you relate to money, opportunity, and even the universe itself. Wattles doesn't teach you how to save pennies or pick stocks. He's not talking about sales funnels or passive income streams. What he offers is something deeper. A way of thinking, a way of being, that literally draws wealth toward you. And it's not magic. It's not fantasy. It's not motivational fluff. It's a way of understanding the world where getting rich is not a privilege or a gamble, but the natural outcome of thinking and acting in a certain way. That phrase shows up again and again in the book. In a certain way. Think a certain way. Act a certain way. Speak, believe, and move in harmony with the laws of increase, and money starts to show up. Not because you're manipulating people. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you've tuned yourself to the frequency of creation, to abundance, to the invisible rhythm of expansion that governs everything in the universe, including your bank account. Stay with me, because this isn't about blind positivity or pretending you're rich when you're broke. Wattles is surprisingly grounded. He knows you're here because you want more. And he tells you, straight up, you're supposed to. You're meant to want more. More money, more life, more love, more contribution, more expression, not for vanity, for expansion. He believed that becoming rich was part of your purpose, not for greed, but for growth. Because when you're rich and aligned and generous and awake, you can do more, be more, give more. You stop surviving. You start creating. And here's where it gets really interesting. Wattles believed that anyone, no matter how broke, stuck, or disadvantaged, could begin to shift their entire financial reality just by shifting how they think and act each day. Not in some vague, fluffy way, but by committing fully to this certain way. He lays it out in simple, timeless terms. And in this breakdown, I'm going to walk you through it all. Not as a summary of ideas, but as an unfolding conversation. A guided shift in how you see yourself, money, and power. We'll break down how to align your thoughts with abundance instead of fear, how to take action with faith instead of doubt, how to create wealth without taking anything away from anyone, and how to stop chasing and start attracting. Not passively, but intentionally. And yes, we'll talk about what happens when things go wrong. When doubt creeps in, when nothing seems to move, when the outer world doesn't reflect your inner vision. Because Wattles doesn't pretend this is instant. But he promises, and backs it up, that if you stay consistent, if you trust the science and apply it with boldness and belief, the results will follow. Money will come. Ideas will come. People, resources, opportunities, they will begin to orbit your vision. Because your mind, once aligned, becomes a magnet. This isn't hustle culture. This isn't blind optimism. This is spiritual physics. And once you understand it, really understand it, you'll never look at money the same way again. Let's begin. Part 1. You are supposed to get rich right from the start. Wattles says something that catches most people off guard. Not because it's complicated, but because it's the opposite of what most of us were taught. You are supposed to get rich. Let that sit for a second. Not, you can get rich. Not, if you're lucky, you might get rich. You're meant to get rich. It's part of your purpose. And it's not because money is some holy thing. It's because money is how life expands through you. Wattles says that every person has the right to live fully, to have what they need, to experience beauty, to grow mentally and spiritually, to express themselves completely. And you can't do that if you're constantly struggling to make ends meet. He believed that the desire for wealth is not shameful. It's not greedy. It's not selfish. It's natural. Because the essence of life is expansion. And money is simply one of the tools that allows you to expand. Without it, your opportunities shrink. Your choices narrow. You survive, but you don't thrive. Wattles pushes back hard against the old spiritual belief that virtue means poverty. He calls it out for what it is: false. He says you don't become more holy by being broke. You don't become wiser by suffering financially. In fact, he says that being rich, honestly, fairly, creatively, is one of the most noble things you can do. Because when you have money, you have power. Power to take care of your body. Power to travel, to learn, to surround yourself with beauty. Power to help others. Power to create without limits. And power to live a complete life, not just a restricted one. But here's where it gets subtle. Wattles isn't talking about greed. He's not saying, get rich at all costs. He's saying that getting rich is part of a larger process. You become more so you can give more. You grow so you can serve. You increase your own life, and in doing so, you become a source of increase for others. That shift in perspective is massive. Because now money isn't dirty. It's not something you chase secretly or feel guilty about. It's something you create openly, joyfully, because you know the more you have, the more life you can unlock. And once you stop resisting wealth, once you drop the guilt, the doubt, the old beliefs that told you rich people are evil or that ambition is wrong, something opens up inside you. You stop sabotaging. You stop hiding. You stop undercharging, overworking, or shrinking to make other people comfortable. You start stepping into your full power, not because you're chasing money, but because you finally understand it's okay to want it. You're allowed to have more. You're allowed to desire more. You're allowed to be rich, because life wants to express itself through you in bigger and bolder ways. This isn't about entitlement. It's about alignment. When you stop seeing wealth as something separate from your purpose, and start seeing it as part of your purpose, your entire energy shifts. You move with clarity. You ask for what you're worth. You act like someone who deserves a full, rich, meaningful life. Because you do. Wattles believed that poverty is not noble. That lack is not a virtue. That the best way to honor life is to live it abundantly. And that starts by accepting the truth he puts right at the center of this philosophy. You are supposed to get rich. Part 2. The universe is wired for increase if you want to get rich, and not just imagine it, but actually move in that direction. You need to believe something foundational. That the world you live in is built for increase, not limitation. That belief is everything. Wattles says the universe isn't neutral. It's not random. It's not stingy. It's creative. Its entire nature is one of expansion. Look around. Everything in nature grows. Seeds become forests. Cells multiply. Stars are born. Life pushes outward. It wants to express more of itself, not less. And you're part of that same system. You are not a mistake. You are not an accident. You are an extension of this universal force, and your desire to grow, to improve, to expand, to experience more, isn't just allowed, it's divine. This changes everything. Because the moment you stop seeing wealth as something rare, and start seeing it as something natural, you begin to relate to money differently. You stop thinking, how can I get my piece of the pie? And start asking, how can I create value in a world designed to multiply it? Wattles says there's a formless substance that fills the universe, an infinite intelligence, call it God, source, energy, whatever name you give it, and it responds to your thoughts. Not just your wishes, your focused thoughts, your faith, your vision. The more clearly and confidently you hold an idea of increase, the more this invisible substance begins to shape itself around that image. And this is why he says you must think in a certain way. Because you're not just hoping for wealth, you're generating the mental blueprint that wealth will follow. But most people don't think in this way. They think in terms of scarcity. They believe there's not enough to go around. They think wealth is zero-sum. If someone else has more, they must have taken it from someone else. And that mindset keeps them stuck. They resent success. They judge ambition. They quietly sabotage their own goals because deep down they think having more makes them selfish. Wattles calls that out for what it is: a misunderstanding of how the universe works. Wealth doesn't run out. Opportunity doesn't run out. Ideas, energy, innovation, growth. None of it is capped unless you believe it is. And when you do, your mind starts filtering everything through that lens. You miss chances. You ignore inspiration. You see competition instead of collaboration. But when you believe in increase, when you start from the idea that there's enough, and more than enough, you become a magnet for creation. You don't fight for scraps. You create more value. You stop seeing other people as threats. You start seeing them as proof that abundance exists. And here's where the science comes in. Wattles says the process is lawful, not mystical, not random. When you think in harmony with the creative force, when you act with faith instead of fear, when your intention is to increase life for yourself and others, the results become predictable. Not always instant, but inevitable. You're not manipulating the universe. You're cooperating with it. That shift, from scarcity to increase, from force to flow, is what opens the door. Not because the money magically appears, but because your awareness sharpens. Your mind sees angles it couldn't see before. Your energy becomes more focused, your presence more magnetic, your actions more aligned. And the world responds. Because it's built to. Wattles says plainly, wealth comes through natural law. You don't need to take from anyone else. You don't need to beg, compete, or dominate. You need to create, to move forward, to believe that increase is the rule, not the exception. The universe is not holding back on you. It's waiting on you to align with its nature, to stop shrinking, to stop hiding, to stop apologizing for wanting more. Because once you believe that life is supposed to expand, you stop asking if it's possible to get rich, and start asking how you'll do it. Part 3, Thought plus Faith plus Action. Once you accept that you're supposed to get rich, and that the universe is actually designed to help you do it, the next question becomes, how? And Wattles doesn't play games here. He gives you the answer straight. You create wealth through a combination of thought, faith, and action. Not one, not two, all three. Let's start with thought. He says everything starts with a clear mental image. Not just a vague wish like, I want to be rich. A real, specific, focused idea of what you want to create, how you want to live, who you want to become. Your mind has to be directed, not distracted. Because the formless substance, the universal intelligence that surrounds and fills everything, responds to clear, definite thought. That's the blueprint. That's the order you're placing with life itself. And if you're not placing an order, life will just keep delivering you leftovers. But here's the part most people miss. Thought alone isn't enough. You can't just visualize your dream life and expect it to appear. That's where faith comes in. Wattles says your thought has to be held in faith, which means you have to believe that what you want is already yours in the invisible. Not maybe someday, but now. Already existing. Already in motion. Already yours, waiting to be called into form. This is where most people fall off. They can think big, sure. They can dream. But their belief doesn't match their vision. They imagine wealth while feeling fear. They say affirmations while doubting every word. They pretend to be confident, but deep down, they're waiting for proof before they commit. And Wattles is clear. Faith comes before evidence. The proof shows up after the belief, not before. Faith isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about knowing that the law works, just like gravity. You don't have to feel it working to trust that it is. And when you combine thought with unwavering belief, your internal state begins to change. Your energy sharpens. Your clarity deepens. And that inner shift is what opens the door to the third piece. Action. This is where it all becomes real. Because no matter how powerful your thoughts are, no matter how deep your faith runs, you still have to move. You still have to meet the day with energy, with discipline, with intention. Not frantic hustle, but aligned action. Wattles makes it clear, you don't need to wait for a perfect opportunity. You don't need to have the full picture. You just need to do what you can, with what you have, right where you are. And you need to do it well, better than expected, with full presence like it actually matters. Because it does. You're not acting for the money directly. You're acting to keep yourself in harmony with the law. You're proving to the universe that you're ready, that you're serious, That you're not just imagining wealth, you're embodying it. And here's what happens when you act from thought and faith. Your current situation begins to shift. You start seeing new paths, meeting new people, feeling new energy. Your environment may stay the same for a little while, but you don't. You become the kind of person wealth is drawn to. Not because you chased it, because you aligned with it, mentally, spiritually, practically. Most people get stuck because they live in fragments. They think positively, but act from fear. They work hard, but think small. They believe in abundance, but speak scarcity. And so they send mixed signals to the world and to themselves. But Wattles gives you a clear path. Form a clear vision of what you want. Hold that vision with calm, unwavering faith. Act every day in alignment with that belief. Fully, presently, purposefully. No magic. Just law. No begging. Just creating from the inside out. And once you lock into that rhythm, the results will start showing up. Not by luck. Not by force. But by law. Part 4. Master the present moment. One of the most important and most overlooked teachings in the science of getting rich is this. You don't get rich in the future. You get rich in the present. It's easy to forget that, especially when you're chasing goals, visualizing big things, planning for what's next. Your mind wants to live out there, in someday, in the life you're building, in the version of you that's already wealthy. But Wattles brings it all back to this one truth. The only place wealth is created is right where you are. He says that doing each day's work, your current work, no matter how small or temporary or unimpressive it may seem, with excellence and intention is the bridge between you and your desired life. Because wealth isn't something you leap into. It's something you grow into, step by step, through the way you treat what's already in front of you. Most people get stuck here. They think, once I have more time, more money, more freedom, then I'll show up differently. But that's backwards. Life doesn't reward potential. It rewards readiness. It rewards presence. Wattles says plainly, by thought, the thing you want is brought to you. By action, you receive it. And that means your present actions, how you show up today, are your signal to the universe. Not your dreams. Not your mood. Your movement. This isn't about hustling blindly or working yourself into the ground. It's about putting your full self into what you're doing right now, even if it feels small. Because when you do that, you step into the creative flow. You align your current self with your future self. You stop resisting where you are and start shaping what's coming next. Wattles doesn't romanticize this part. He knows it's uncomfortable. He knows you won't always love your current job, your current routine, your current position. But he also knows that how you handle it determines what you're ready for next. You don't have to love every detail, but you do have to bring energy, precision, presence. That's what creates the momentum that moves you forward. It's not about waiting for the big opportunity. It's about turning your current work into a demonstration of who you're becoming. That small project you're tempted to rush through? That client you think doesn't matter? That task you've done 100 times and could easily half-ass? That's your training ground. That's where your future fortune is forming. Because the universe doesn't hand out upgrades to people who disrespect the level they're on. It responds to clarity, to consistency, to creative energy well applied. That's what Wattles means when he says you must act in a certain way. It's not mystical. It's practical. It's about moving through your day with purpose, instead of running on autopilot. Doing each thing, however routine or unglamorous, with care, with attention, with the same presence you'd bring to $1 million deal. And here's what happens when you start living like that. Opportunities find you. Ideas flow more easily. People begin to notice. Doors start to open, not because you chased them, but because you became someone worth opening them for. Wattles insists, there's no such thing as a meaningless task. Only meaningless attention. And when you give your best to where you are, the world starts giving its best to you. So don't rush the process. Don't try to escape your current season. Honor it. Show the universe you're serious. Not just in thought, not just in hope, but in how you move through every hour of your day. Because wealth isn't waiting in the future. It's being built, right here, right now. Part 5. Stop competing. Start creating. One of the boldest claims Wattles makes in the science of getting rich is also one of the most liberating. You don't need to compete with anyone to get rich. Not only do you not need to, you shouldn't. Competition, he says, is the mindset of the old world. It's built on the belief that there's only so much to go around, and that the only way to win is to beat someone else to it. That mindset breeds fear. It breeds urgency, anxiety, mistrust. And worst of all, it shrinks your creative power. Because when you're in competition mode, you're focused on what already exists, not on what could exist. You're looking sideways, not forward. You're trying to outperform, not to outcreate. But Wattles flips the whole script. He says wealth isn't limited. It's not a pie with a fixed number of slices. It's a field, an infinite, formless substance, waiting to take shape in the direction of your desire. And when you move in harmony with that field, you don't take from others. You create something new. Let that shift land. Your success doesn't come from outdoing someone. It comes from aligning with the universal law of increase, and bringing something into the world that wasn't there before. This is why competition is not just unhelpful. It's a trap. Because it pulls your attention away from your own vision. It tempts you to imitate, to compare, to play games that weren't meant for you. And all the while, you're leaking energy. You're operating from fear, the fear that someone else is ahead, or that you're too late. But if you believe in creation, you know there's always room. Always room for a new idea. A better version. A different audience. A unique voice. Your expression. Wattles makes it clear, no one is holding you back but you. You don't need permission. You don't need someone else to fail so you can win. You just need to think and act in a way that produces value, and the universe, through its natural laws, will find a way to reward you. He's not saying be passive. He's saying be original. Be deliberate. Don't fight over scraps. Generate supply. Don't imitate. Innovate. And most importantly, trust that your wealth doesn't depend on what others do. It depends on what you're willing to become. When you let go of competition, something incredible happens. You move lighter. You think clearer. You create more freely. You stop playing games of status and start playing the long game of contribution. And the people who contribute, who bring something real, something useful, something honest, they never have to fight for their place. Their place is earned, quietly, consistently, through creation. So Wattles would ask you, are you trying to win someone else's game? Are you watching the marketplace? Or building something of value for it? Are you chasing what already exists? Or birthing what's next? Because the richest people in the world didn't get there by fighting for a spot. They created one. And so can you. Part 6. Act with unshakable faith. At this stage, Wattles has made one thing clear. Wealth isn't random. It isn't reserved for the lucky few. It comes by law, and you access that law through a very specific combination of thinking, feeling, and doing. But here's where most people stumble. It's not the thinking. Most people can imagine wealth. It's not even the action. Plenty of people work hard. It's the faith. Wattles says that once you've created a clear mental image of the life you want, you have to hold that image with absolute, unwavering faith, even when the outer world looks nothing like it. That's where most people give up. Because they start with belief, but the moment their circumstances don't match the vision, they waver. They question. They hesitate. They fall back into doubt. And that doubt breaks the connection. Wattles doesn't sugarcoat it. He says that holding a mental image of wealth while surrounded by poverty requires power. To think riches when you have unpaid bills, to think success when you're surrounded by failure, that's not delusion. That's discipline. Because this kind of faith isn't passive. It's not about sitting around hoping everything will magically change. It's active trust. It's thinking, moving, speaking, and behaving as if the outcome is already unfolding. Because in truth, it is. This is where the science comes in. Wattles believed that the universe responds not to your wishes or desperation, but to your certainty. The more consistent and calm your belief, the more directly the formless substance responds. It's like tuning a radio. A clear signal produces a clear result. So what do you do when nothing's happening yet? You keep going. You stay in action. You refuse to let appearances pull you back into doubt. You do your work, fully, deliberately, not because you're trying to force an outcome, but because you're proving to the universe that you're ready. You're showing, through your daily behavior, that your vision isn't optional, it's your path. Wattles says you must never speak or think discouragingly about yourself or your progress. That doesn't mean pretending. It means protecting your mental image. Because your inner state is what shapes your outer world. And the moment you let doubt run the show, you start attracting results that match it. Faith, in this philosophy, is not some warm feeling. It's alignment. It's refusing to contradict your desire with fear. It's choosing the truth of abundance over the illusion of lack. It's becoming the version of yourself who already knows the outcome is done. And when you live like that, something shifts. You stop needing guarantees. You stop chasing signs. You move with a kind of quiet certainty that doesn't need to be loud, because it knows. It knows that the laws are working, that the process is unfolding, that your only job is to stay in alignment, in thought, in word, and in action, until what's invisible becomes visible. Most people want to believe after they've seen results. But Wattles says, believe first. Move as if it's already yours, and the world will move with you. Part 7. Getting rich is a sacred responsibility after all the philosophy, after the practical teachings, after the breakdown of thought, faith, and action. Wattles leaves us with one final truth. You're not just allowed to get rich, you're supposed to. And not just for comfort. Not just for freedom. Not even just for security. You're supposed to get rich because life wants to grow through you. Wattles believed that every person has something unique to express, something no one else can bring into the world in exactly the same way. And money, when earned and used with integrity, is one of the greatest tools to help that expression come to life. He flips the idea of wealth on its head. Getting rich isn't selfish, staying small is. Because when you stay small, you limit your impact. You cap your creativity. You restrict the full expansion of what you could become, what you could create, who you could help. And the world loses something irreplaceable. You, at your fullest. Wattles says clearly, the object of all life is development. And since we live in a physical world, development requires resources. It requires access. It requires money. To live well. To learn. To experience beauty. To give your gifts freely. To raise a family with stability. To support causes you believe in. To create without permission. You need wealth, not for status, but for capacity. This is why he insists that becoming rich is a sacred responsibility. Not a game. Not a luxury. Not an ego trip. It's a commitment to live fully. To expand continuously. To let go of guilt, shame, and scarcity. To replace fear with purpose. And to build a life that reflects the truth of who you are, not just who the world told you to be. Because once you do, your life becomes a signal. You don't just change your bank account. You change your energy. You inspire the people around you to think differently. To live differently. You become proof that wealth can be spiritual, ethical, expansive, and deeply human. And that ripple matters more than you can imagine. Because the science of getting rich isn't just a guide to making money. It's a manual for becoming someone who embodies abundance. In thought, in behavior, in presence. Someone who wakes up with clarity, moves through the day with confidence, and sleeps at night with peace. Not because they chased money, but because they aligned with life itself. So yes, get rich. But don't do it just for you. Do it because the world needs what only you can bring. Do it because life is meant to be expanded, not endured. Do it because every step you take in faith, every bold action, every moment of presence, all of it, is shaping a reality far bigger than your own. And that is what makes this a science. Not a formula of numbers, but a formula of being. Now you know. Getting rich isn't a gamble. It's not a race. It's not a game for the lucky or the ruthless. It's a science. A process, a rhythm, A way of thinking and acting that brings you into harmony with something far greater than the economy, your background, or your current situation. Wallace D. Wattles didn't just give us a book. He gave us a blueprint. A new paradigm. One where wealth is not separate from purpose. One where faith isn't naive, it's essential. One where your desires aren't something to be ashamed of. They're instructions from life itself, calling you forward. So if you've ever doubted whether you're allowed to want more, if you've ever held back out of guilt, fear, or old beliefs about money, if you've ever wondered whether the universe really has your back, this book answers with a calm, powerful truth. Yes, you were meant to be rich. Not for greed, but for growth. Not for status, but for contribution. Not to escape life, but to express it fully. You don't have to wait. You don't have to beg. You don't have to compete. You only have to begin thinking and acting in a certain way. Daily, deliberately, with presence, faith, and purpose. And if you do, you'll notice something changing. Not just in your bank account, but in your mind, in your posture, in your energy, in how you carry yourself and how the world responds to you. You'll feel it, and eventually you'll see it, because the law never fails. It only waits for you to align. So now it's your turn. What part of the science of getting rich hit you the hardest? What shift are you making today? In thought, in habit, in how you see yourself? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your insight, your story, your commitment. And if you want to go deeper, get the full book using the affiliate link in the description. It supports this channel and puts timeless wisdom in your hands, the kind that grows every time you reread it. If this breakdown helped bring clarity to your path, hit that subscribe button. Here at Compact Wisdom, we take the best ideas in the world and make them real. One book at a time. One breakthrough at a time. One mindset shift that lasts a lifetime. Thanks for watching. Now go think clearly. Act boldly. Move with faith. And let the life you were meant to live begin, starting now.